Hey everybody, welcome to the Gaming Golf U.S. Open Edition. Jeff Erickson here, back from a week sabbatical here with Jeff Ritter and Scott Genstad. The recently wealthier Scott Genstad after having a little Higo money in his pocket after this past weekend. Congratulations on that.
It was a thing. It was a thing of beauty. Thanks to Chesson Hadley for feeling the nerves a little bit in the back nine.
Yeah, that was hard to watch.
It was
literally hard to watch for me. I was in the Caribbean, but
it was less hard for me to watch. I'll just put it that way.
Yeah.
What do you do? What do you do with Higo money? What's the like first thing you do with a Garrick Higo windfall? How does that get spent?
It covers for the last 3 or 4 weeks of not picking winners, and then it adds to the bankroll for the U.S. Open, which is always good in front of a major.
Nice. All right, that's a good call. This is a big one.
Yeah, it's huge. I'm looking forward to it.
We should hit something good.
Yeah, I'm super looking forward to this, and we should have a good time. But congrats on the Higo. Poor Chesson. I watched Dustin Johnson a little bit on Saturday from the hotel, and like, screw that. I'm out of here. That's my guy in our leagues, and it was just tough watching him skulk around. I guess I'm not going to compete again this weekend either, because Jeff's got him on my team. But anyway,
if not for that triple on Sunday, though, like, he's right there. I mean, nobody ran away, and it just nobody took advantage. It was a weird Sunday.
It was a weird event. Totally. Yeah. I mean, the course looked good. I like the course, but it's a smaller field, or I shouldn't say smaller, but lesser field, and a lot of the big names didn't even make the cut. And a lot of the others faded over the weekend, so it made it tough. But anyhow, we got a major this week at the U.S. Open. We got Torrey Pines Classic course. Second time this year we go there. First, let's ask you guys this: how do you feel about going back to a course that's on the rotation?
Well, it's like barely on the rotation. I guess. Well,
what do you mean?
Not talking about the road. I was thinking the U.S. Open Rota, but no.
I'm talking the yearly Rota.
No, I like U.S. Open Rota better. I don't. To me, it's a little bit of a mark against Torrey Pines. The fact you see it all the time. Yeah, they'll trick it up a little bit differently. It's going to be rough. You're seeing. Just hop on Twitter if you want to see golf balls landing in the rough and people, showing that off. But for me, I like seeing the U.S. Open kind of like original venues, the spots you only see once every 5 or 6 years, more than just kind of popping back to Torrey.
I'm probably biased because I love Torrey and I love Pebble, and that's the two places they really do this at. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm actually going to go see one of the rounds live, so I'm biased there also. But I love this course. I love the area. I'm good with it. I mean, I think it's cool when they play something they haven't played at all either, but I think it'd be fun. You get the South course only. I think it'll be different enough. The fairways will be more narrow. The rough will be up. I think it'll play a lot different than we're used to in January. And the wind is a big difference too. Like the wind, there's not going to be any wind. Sometimes you get January, Brant Snedeker won a few years ago where it was crazy wind and everybody kind of came back to the field, but I'm good with it. I think it's going to be fun. It's a beautiful area.
I'm biased in favor of any course that I've actually been able to play before. So
you shot what, 73 there? Is that right?
Then I played the back, but no, it was actually a week after the tournament, which was pretty cool because a lot of this was a couple of years ago. The bleachers they're still taking down a lot of the bleachers. A lot of them were still standing. The fairways were carpet. They were amazing to hit off of. The 3 times I got on the fairway. The rough was tough to hack out of, but I parred in the last like 2 or 3 holes, so that was pretty cool. That's as good as I can do. So it's an awesome course though. It was fun to see Torrey Pines South. I haven't played the North yet though.
A par finish might play well this week for somebody coming down the stretch. You could sell those 3 pars.
Are they going to still do you think like they'll have the same pins as they do every year for the Buick or whatever it's called now? Where they have that front pin on Sunday on 18, front left pin on, or do you think they'll change it up a little bit?
I don't know. It wasn't front left. I mean, everybody's seen the Tiger replays a million times. That was not the Buick Invitational pin. So I think they probably have something new in mind. For the week, just as they tweak the whole course, front to back. I think pin position is probably part of it.
Yeah. Then the thing they did again is they lengthened the course. They grew out the rough. Once again, this is a Bombers type of course. At least that's what everyone's saying. Is that what you guys think is going to be the case? We'll start with Scott this time. What do you think who's got the advantage here?
Yeah, I mean, I think it does. We're gonna have to see exactly how bad the rough is. But when we saw the U.S. Open last time with Bryson, like it's just made such a huge difference. Like nobody was in the fairway anyway. So when Bryson's 30, 40 yards further than everybody else, I mean, that approach shot, it makes a huge difference. I think it's a huge Bombers week. I'm gonna have a hard time picking guys who don't hit the ball far. You're gonna get some guys that hit the ball so well around the greens. When Spieth won his U.S. Open, he was great around the greens. Same with Gary Woodland at Pebble, just unbelievable. Chipping and putting that week. So you're gonna get some guys that are just hit fairways. You get like an 8 answer that doesn't hit the ball far, but he's third in the field and hitting fairways. So you get some guys like that, but I think that for the most part, Bombers have a huge edge here this week.
So U.S. Open, man, this is the macho golf tournament of the year, and they picked a tough golf course and they're gonna trick it up to just make it as tough as possible. And so it's got to start with power this week. I think there's no question. You got to have the power game, the strong mind, all of that stuff. They're going to put it on an edge, and the strong survive. So I'm with you, Scott. I don't know how you can pick players who aren't, that power player type of mode. And Bryson's a prime example of that.
And of course, we have to start the conversation with Bryson. It's all, he's the defending champ from Winged Foot. They even used the phrase bomb and gouge, but PGAtour.com had a really good article today talking about the history. Like Sam Snead used to have an advantage over the field by hitting it farther. Then Arnie did. And then Vijay Singh, of all people, did. And, it's like every generation, they have that one golfer that hits it farther than everyone else. Everyone, used to have to Tiger-proof courses. Now we're Bryson-proofing courses. And it seems like the only answer every time is, hey, lengthen it. Grow the rough out. As everyone likes to say, better to kind of dig out from the rough with a shorter club than a fairway hitting from a 5-iron from the fairway, right?
Yeah, I mean, Bryson, he made those calculations for himself, and that was, it's not like he just started lifting weights. I mean, for him, It was like, this was all calculated. He did the research and decided, look, if I hit the ball farther than anybody else in pro golf, it's going to pay off. And it is paying off. And obviously last US Open, that's where, he ultimately hit the biggest cash register yet, was getting that first major championship win. And he has to go on the short list of favorites this week. No one has a bigger game off the tee than he does right now. So he's certainly, he's among the odds-on favorites. I'm looking at the DraftKings board now. I'm actually surprised that Rahm is the number one most expensive player in the daily fantasy. But I think Bryson, he's going to be in a lot of lineups this week, and rightfully so.
But Bryson's recent form has been pretty bad. And that's the interesting thing. I think he's only had like a couple top 35s even, let alone top 5s, top 10s.
Yeah, I don't know. What do you think, Scott? He's still on my short list despite that.
Yeah. I mean, I think he has to be in the short list just because of this power game, but there's enough guys at the top here that hit the ball far enough that are hitting the ball. I think that how you hit on approach is going to be important. I mean, there's a lot of long par fours. I mean, they made that one par 5 into a par 4, so suddenly, it's par 71 now. I think that, you got to score on the par 5s and the par 3s, but those par 4s, you're going to have to find a way to make pars. And I think of the guys at the top, I prefer a couple others to do that over Bryson this week. So I'm not going to be betting him, and I probably won't have him many DraftKings lineup. Not because I don't think he can dominate and go out there with. It's just that of the price range, these guys at the 5 figures, there's just a couple I like more.
Yeah, I get that there. One other storyline, then we'll start kind of going by tiers. I mean, we got to talk. You mentioned Rahm. He was lapping the field at the Memorial before he got pulled off the course because of his COVID test. He's done his his isolation. He's done with that. He's able to play, but his routine was disrupted. Yet he still seems to be like the betting favorite. He's the DraftKings favorite. What say you? Let's go, Jeff, here first.
I always go back to the fact that pro golfers are creatures of habit, and by and large, disruptions to the routine are not a great thing. And whether it's the pre-shot routine, the travel routine, the food routine, the fit, whatever, the shrink routine, everything is these guys, their lives are very, very structured. And so I just don't know. It wouldn't shock me if Rahm, kind of the angry golfer comes out refocused, and, this certainly is a great golf course for him. He's had success here. He could win it. But like Scott was saying about DeChambeau, I think in this top tier, I lean other directions than Rahm. And I'm surprised, frankly, that he is the odds-on favorite, because I just think there's just this extra stuff swirling around him now. And this guy's never even won one major. I'm going to go a different way out of the top tier guys.
Do we think his routine was messed up that much? Like, aside from missing one round on Sunday, he wasn't going to play last week anyway. Like, he was just going to be at the practice range. Do we think he did anything different aside from not play one round?
What did he do for a week? What did he do in quarantine?
I'm sure he just hit balls. He must have a range somewhere he went to, right? There's no way he wasn't hitting balls, right?
He's got to, I don't know. He's got to answer for it. He had to go somewhere. I don't know. There's extra stuff on your mind now. You just lost $1.6 million payday. I don't know.
Where did he quarantine? Did he quarantine in Ohio? Was he allowed to travel? I mean,
I don't know.
I got to think you're not allowed to travel, right? So you got to kind of quarantine there.
I can't imagine anything worse than an unplanned week in Ohio, personally.
As he's wearing his Michigan jacket. Oh my gosh. Brutal.
He probably went down to Florida hanging out in Tiger's backyard just hitting balls or something. I'm sure he found a way.
I guess you could drive, but why would you drive to Florida when you have to go to California? I don't know, but
I don't know. I imagine that. I imagine if you're John Rahm, you're one of the top 5 players in the world. He found a way to hit balls at the range the last week.
Probably so. Okay, let's tackle the rest of the top up tier. We talked Bryson, we talked Rahm. Spieth at 10-9. DJ's at 10-7 for reasons. I'm not quite sure why, and Brooks is at 10-1. I mean, what has Dustin Johnson done to merit this high price, guys? Maybe I'm just jaded because he's on my season-long team, but he'll have an odd, good Thursday or Friday, but on the weekend, he's never there.
Boy, I don't know. He's got the game. He's got a U.S. Open win. I sort of felt like it might be starting to come together for him also in South Carolina, and it can happen quickly, for a guy like DJ. I would actually take him over Bryson at these prices this week. I know as a bitter fantasy owner, he has not delivered on his price season long, but he flashes, he's going to win somewhere this year. I think this is a good week for him. It's hard to imagine him, just not contending, not being there this weekend on a golf course like this. So I like him a lot. And I love Brooks Koepka this week. The fact that he missed the cut last weekend in South Carolina actually makes me even more on to Brooks Koepka this week. Just get out of there on the weekend and go back and get ready to just steel yourself for another major, because this is what he does. So those two guys both, I think, are I just can't imagine, if you pick one or the other, I can't imagine you're going to be wrong twice in your fantasy pools this week.
Yeah, I not only like that Brooks mixed the cut, but I liked how he missed the cut, because he hit the ball really well, just didn't putt well, didn't play well around the greens. If he was out there like hitting the ball over the place, I'd be a little more concerned. But when you look at the PGA where he lost to Phil, 11.4 shots gained, tee to green, 7.8 approaches, hitting the ball really well right now. I'm with you on Brooks, but if I'm going to go 2 guys in this range, my top 2 guys would be Rahm and Brooks. I'm not playing Spieth. I think that he could make magic happen. He's playing really well, but I just don't think the off-the-tee game is quite good enough to hang with the rest of the guys here. He can always do it where he makes a bunch of 30-foot putts and wins, and I get that. But if I got to pick between these 4 guys, I'm not playing Spieth. I'm not playing Bryson. DJ's tough. I mean, he's the guy that can get hot. I mean, he had 2 back-to-back 80s and then reeled off like 10 top 5s in a row, or whatever it was last year. So he can have it any time. But if I'm going to go 2 guys up here, give me Rahm, give me Brooks, and I'll fade the other 3.
All right. Yeah. And that lends itself to the other question is, do you play this top tier, or do you go into the resource rich $9,000 tier that you always seem to like?
The nines are freaking awesome this week.
Yeah. Rory at 9.9, JT at 9.7. That's as low as I've seen in a while. Colin Morikawa at 9.5, Xander at 9.3. A lot of people talking that one up. Hovland 9.2, Cantlay 9.1, and Reed at 9,000. Let's go Scott this week. You say you love this tier. Tell me who you love the most. How are you going to build your lineups with these guys?
This tier is awesome. I mean, you got elite level guys in the 9s. I mean, that's what makes majors so fun. As we get later on here, we're going to realize that there's not a lot of guys in the 6s that I like. There's very few stabs down there I'm going to take. So I think that what I may do is, instead of going with the top guys, I think I might go 2 guys from the 9s, then build more in the 7s and the 6s. Because I think going down, another thing we didn't talk about at the top, this cut is only top 60 this week. It's really tough to make this cut. Getting 6 to 6 guys or 5 to 6 guys even is going to be really difficult. It's going to be a really low percentage. Usually it's a top 65, and that 5 sometimes makes a difference, sometimes doesn't. But I imagine you'll see it where it's going to be a shot difference. But I love Rory this week in this range. I like Morikawa, and I like Hovland to be my 3 favorite. I think Rory's going to actually win this week. I just think it's wild to see him under 10K. Top 20 the last 3 years at Torrey playing here. Obviously a different setup, but the tee to green approach, which is Rory's staple, it's been absolutely fantastic lefty tournaments. It was lost for a while. It's back now. I think if Rory putts it all, I mean, he's got easily the distance to play. I think if he putts it all, he's going to win this week. So he's my favorite up here. I always love Morikawa. You guys know that. We don't talk about the ball striking. He's just so damn elite. He's gained tee to green approach in 12 straight measured tournaments. A lot of them super high in those numbers too. So I think I'm going to start with Rory and Morikawa or Rory and Hovland and kind of go from there on my main roster.
Wow! And did I hear you say Rory to win this week? That's
my pick.
That's it, huh? Well, that would be great news for my fantasy team. The only thing that scares me about Rory is that he has a lot of DJ in him now where it kind of flickers on and off. And I just don't know, is the toughest test in golf, is that going to be the week where it all holds up and he holds it together? Certainly the game, you're right. I mean, the game fits the profile of a U.S. Open champion in this kind of golf course. But you, Scott, along with his own play, have made me a believer in Colin Morikawa this year.
The man.
And so he is my favorite off of this tier. The iron game is tops on tour. He's so steady. He just keeps putting himself there in all the biggest events. And he is on my very short. I'm not sure. I'm going to take in the rest of our podcast here before I declare my ultimate pick to win. But he is on the very, very upper tier of my picks. And I also like Patrick Reed this week. He won the Farmers earlier this year. I'm not slipping past him at 9,000 now on DraftKings. It's kind of the bottom end of this tier. I think that's a good price for someone that I think could just short game his way around and grit his way around and just is another guy that's not going to crack. So those two guys for me. And Schauffele's he's kind of a wild card. I think he's smart to play. I wouldn't base my team around it, but he's another guy with the power game who's due. You almost put him in the same bucket as Rahm in that way of just like the game's there. He's been there. He's been pretty close a bunch of times. No heartbreak. How has this not happened yet? I would almost rather play Schauffele than Rahm, given their price differences.
I think Schauffele is going to be insanely high percent this week. See him at 9,300. I think people just gravitate there right away. He's usually in the 10s and down here a little bit. He's never been worse than 6th in the U.S. Open. Like, I think everybody in the world is going to be playing Schauffele. He was second at the Farmers in January. I think he's the highest percentage owned guy, maybe under some of the top elites.
So is that like good edible chalk for cash games? If you're just playing like 50-50 or head-to-head, you could probably – it seems like a good staple because it doesn't matter as much as opposed to like a tournament.
I think staple in cash games is an excellent way to put Xander this week.
All right. Cool. Couple of things. One thing I like about Reed is he knows which holes to improve your lie on. So there's that. So does Rory for that matter.
No lift in place this week like he had in January, though.
Yeah, that's true. Probably not going to rain. I'll grant you that. On officefootballpool.com, you can check. I've already made my pick for one and done. It happens to be Colin Morikawa. I still have him available, so that's one factor. But I just love the ball striking. If he could only putt, although he did putt last time he played, putted pretty well actually at the Memorial. But yeah, I like his setup there too. So I'm going to probably build a lot around Morikawa. What do you think about Cantlay? Last time we saw him, he won.
I don't know. I just keep overlooking him. I don't know. I think I just need to see a little bit more, even though, he has the win. I don't know why I just kind of gravitate away from him. Maybe it's the soft-spoken kind of demeanor, the steely. I don't know what it is. We call
that grumpy. We just call that grumpy.
You don't like the cut of his jib.
A little bit of a dour. Yeah. Yes. I don't know. And that's not a great reason to not pick a guy, but
that would be
I just always find other guys I just am more excited about priced around him in the fantasy games.
Sure. I was just going to ask you, is there anybody in this tier that you dislike or maybe not personally dislike, but don't like paying for? So it's Cantlay for you, Jeff. What about you, Scott? Is there any of them that you just write off, say, no, I don't like them at that price?
Before we do that, what do you guys do? I mean, we went through this range. We haven't even talked about JT, who's like the number 2 player in the world.
I know.
That's priced under 10.
I'm wondering why you haven't brought him up. I'm wondering, is this like something you're not interested in?
It's just that I like the other guys more. He just seems kind of all over the place right now. His approach is still really good, but the last 3 weeks it's fallen off a little bit. I think there's just enough here that I prefer McIlroy 200 more and Morikawa 200. Yeah, so it's not a fact I don't like JT. It's just I like the guys around him more, and he's not cheap. He's cheaper than normal, but I just like others more is what it comes down to.
It's a weird season for JT. I mean, he drifted. He had all kind of these controversies at the start of the year and things that popped up. Wins the Players. You say he's over it, turn the page, he's back, and then really nothing since the Players. So I don't know. Just enough red flags there for me where even at a discount, there's still other players in the tier I like more right now.
And we also haven't said bupkis about Victor Hovland, who finished second here earlier in the year.
Yeah, he's my third favorite guy in this range. I do like him right after Morikawa and Rory. I'm gonna have him in some lineups. Just, I mean, he's kind of a little stumble last couple tournaments. We had 2 top 5s for that. Really great tee to green and approach the last 4 weeks. Can hit the ball far enough. He just putted terribly last week. I think he's right there with these guys. I'd play him. I'd play him over Patrick Reed myself.
Okay, that's good to know. All right, we kind of thoroughly covered that tier because we love it so much. Let's hit the next tier, which is starting at 8,900 with will he ever win a big one? Tony Finau at 89, Hideki is at 8.8, Simpson at 8.7, Zalatoris at 8.6. That's as low as we've seen that in a while. Scheffler at 85, Berger 84, Hatton 83, Connors 82, Louis at 81, and Cam Smith at 8,000, and Justin Rose also there. Jeff Ritter, we'll start with you. What do you think about this tier?
Why is Justin Rose priced 8,000? That's too low.
They factor in how many minutes of commercials you have to watch at him during the broadcast.
Yeah, that's true. You will see a lot of him. You will see a lot of him this weekend, no matter what. This is true. But to me, it jumps off the board. Justin Rose has won a U.S. Open. He's won a Farmers. He's playing well this year. I think he's riding 4 or 5 top 20s in the last few events. He's factored in both the mates, factored in the Masters, factor at the PGA. Ooh, I don't know. He's also, I'm going to wait till the end of the podcast to reveal my pick, but he is a finalist for not only my pick off this tier, but pick to win. I mean, just very, very tempting.
Do you want me to talk you out of the pick or just let you go with it?
No, please talk me out before I actually, punctuate this podcast with actual, when I bring out the Visa card. So
it's Sports Illustrated money that you're going to get now.
We've talked so much about ball striking in this event, and I look at Rose's last 2 events, 2 top 20s, finished 8th the PGA, lost strokes, tee to green, and approach in both of those tournaments, gained 11.7 strokes putting at the PGA, 6.2 at the Charles Schwab. I just think he had a lucky 2 weeks of putting, and I just don't want someone that is not hitting the ball great coming into this tournament.
Compelling, but I remain unmoved.
That's all right. Fair enough. He's one of those guys that if you're going to play him down here, he can win too. There's a lot of guys down here that can compete. I think he's actually a guy that can win.
So the last 2 tournaments he is fine, but they missed the cut at the Valspar, missed the cut at the Zurich. That's a team event, but actually no, he didn't miss the cut there. I lied. He had money. He made money there. 7th at the Masters, missed the cut at the Arnold Palmer. 54th in Mexico. In the WGC, it wasn't Mexico, it was actually Florida. There's only 7 tournaments he's played this year on the tour. But
it's a lot of commercials to film.
I know.
And we don't have shot gains metrics for the Masters, but the other ones, none of them he really hit the ball great. So I just it's hard for me to back someone like that coming into tournament. But he's Justin Rose, so I mean, anything can happen. But I just there's enough there that I have to feel like I'm not going to take him.
Yeah, last time he played Torrey Pines was 2020. Missed the cut then. Did not play this past year there. All right, let's go to some of the other guys in this range. So we spent some time on Justin Rose. Do we want to do the weekly Can Tony Finau ever win a big tournament analysis here? Is this a good time for that?
I think that's probably enough analysis, right? I mean, he hits it a mile. It's got the game. Like, we're just kind of waiting at this point. I don't know.
If it's going to happen, though, it's going to be here, right? Like, he's got 4 top 10s. He's 7 for 7 making the cut. Plays great on long and tough courses. But, yeah, I mean, I really want it to happen. He's hit the ball really well the last 3 weeks, just and not putting well. I don't know. It's just hard when you see, like, those guys in the 9,000s that we know can win. And I really want it to happen for Finau. I think he's more of a DraftKings play than a betting play. Put it that way.
Okay.
And his price is super. He's down to like around 20 to 1 to win too, which is crazy for a guy who doesn't.
Yeah. That I definitely wouldn't bet it.
So in this range, I actually love the other guy right above Justin Rose. I love Louis this week. Playing really well, top 3 in 2 of his last 4 majors, like playing well at big events. He's gained shot, tee to green approach, and putting in each of the last 5 tournaments, all 3 of those metrics. He's made 8 straight cuts, 3 top 10s in the last 6. I think at 8,100, he's priced at a really good spot on DraftKings, where he's definitely a better player than coming to some of these guys in the high 7s. And I like him. I like him more this week than some of the other guys in the 8s. So I think he's a nice pairing with 1 or 2 of those guys in the 9s if you kind of go with a balanced approach. I think Louis fits in well there. I think he makes the cut. I don't know if he wins, but I think you is a pretty good shot to get the top 20 out of him.
He was my second favorite off this tier as well.
Nice.
Him and Rose together. Nice foundation for a fantasy lineup.
For sure.
What do we think about Zalatoris? Another really good ball striker, down to 86. He was in the 9,000s, I think, for the PGA, if I recall correctly. But obviously he had a great run at the Masters. What do we think about him?
I mean, you just have to kind of like forget the week before, right? You got to forget Charles Schwab. He hit the ball really poorly there, but before that, played really well at the PGA. He's played really well on long and tough courses too. I mean, seventh here in January. Great long iron player. I think he's right there too. I mean, it's hard to. He's so young. You always want to be like, maybe not yet. But every time we say that, he goes and finishes second at the Masters. So yeah, I think he's very playable. 600. Probably him, Finau, and Louis are my 3 guys in DraftKings. I'm probably attacking this range.
I will also make the gaming golf mandatory Corey Connors mention here that he has drifted back down to being slightly underpriced again for how well he's played this year. So I do like these other guys around him a little bit more this week, but still tempting at 8,200.
That's a majors price for Corey Connors, as opposed to weekly tournament price. It's one of those guys that definitely goes down. Anybody else in this tier before we move on?
Those are the 3 guys that I mentioned, are the ones that I'm really playing heavily. Webb Simpson under 9,000 is always intriguing, but I just wonder if the distance will be there this week for him.
Yeah, and the neck kind of bothers me too. That fact that he dealt with, missed the PGA. I want to see something from him before I invest shekels in him in a major right after that. Okay, let's move on to the vast 7,000 tier. A tier so big, we're not going to mention everyone by name. I think it's just. But, podcast favorite Abraham Answer is right there at 79, along with Paul Casey, who we always seem to mention. Why don't we just and then, of course, PGA champ Phil Mickelson's at 77. A lot of mention of Mickelson this week, obviously. Narrative Street, Jeff Ritter, talk about Phil Mickelson.
It's going to go down as the biggest story in golf this year, I think, at least in terms of what's happened on a golf course, barring something just really crazy happening the next couple majors. But just as it was this incredible lightning bolt moment at the PGA, you're asking for lightning to hit twice now. I don't think so. It's a fun story until we get into Thursday afternoon. I would love to be proven wrong, but if we're talking, this is a show about where to put your money, how to build a fantasy team. You skip Narrative Street here, and there's other guys around him that you just got to like their chances more this week.
All right, let's talk about some of the other guys this tier. Jeff, who do you like in this tier?
I like. I flagged Mark Leishman, $7,400. I believe he's won a Farmers. I was trying to dig that out again. It seems like I remember him winning. Just another guy who's kind of like. He's been around enough where he's got a little bit of major championship scar tissue, but not a lot. He's playing pretty well this year. Another guy, like, it comes in flashes for him where it's like, he's good for one major a year where you see Mark Leishman on a Sunday at a major. And I feel like this could be a right setup for him. So I like him a lot. I also thought Lee Westwood, for a while, he was a man on fire earlier this year. He's kind of drifted back a bit. But 7,300 is not a bad price. I flagged him at 150-1. I saw in golf odds. I did not check the odds through DraftKings, but I thought that was way too long for a guy who's could continue the old man narrative of the Mickelson victory. You wouldn't really expect it to continue at a U.S. Open setup, but I thought he was underpriced. So those were a few guys I flagged. Oh, and Kokrak, winner this year. That's power game. I thought that was a good value at 76.
Yeah, I'd say so.
I think Kokrak will be very popular in this range for sure.
Now, does that popularity scare you away from using him in your builds?
Yeah, it does actually. I I'll go stick with the top half of 7,000s first. The two guys I really like here, I love Paul Casey. I think that's not surprising. Everybody, I kind of always like him, but just hit it really well. The last two tournaments, the PGA and the Valspar, just putted badly. Last 8 tournaments, 7 made cuts, 4 top 10s, 3 top 5s. So he's really been making it run at wins. Top 20 in 3 of his last 5 majors, always comes to play in these events. Gained 11.3 shots tee to green, 8.1 approach to PGA, elite ball striking at Valspar. I think you talked about Justin Rose underpriced at 8,000. I think Casey's the guy right here that's underpriced for me. I think 7,900 is just too low a price. I think he should be kind of in the mid 8s, definitely above some of these guys in the low 8s. I love Casey for the week. I think he has an outside chance to win too.
Okay, cool. Last week's winner, Garrett Higo, is down at 72. Obviously, we haven't seen him in the U.S. Open before, but you want to talk about current form? He's got it.
He certainly does across here and the Euros. I mean, he's been like 4 top 5s or top 10s in the last 5 tournaments. We talked about it a couple weeks ago. Like, this guy's really playing well in the European Tour. It's hard. I mean, coming off that first win, what it was expect. He's probably been celebrating for 2 days and, more than anything. But he's been on fire, played really well last week, hit it really well last week. Before we get out of this range, though, I do want to say at 7,600, you talked about Kokrak. I think a really nice pivot off Kokrak, if you want to be a little different, is to go with Shane Lowry instead. I really like how he's playing. 2 top 10s his last 2 starts, top 10, or he's playing really well. Gained tee to green and approach last 6 tournaments. Good around the green, 5 out of 6. I think he has a game right now that plays really well for how Torrey's going to play.
Agreed. Big game, Shane. I want to start that. Let's see if that catches on.
I like it.
I agree. I had him flagged off of this tier as well. I like this tier. I don't like the next tier at all. So I almost like Higo is like my cutoff guy of, pick a guy on form who's playing well. But then it got very difficult for me in the 6,000s to just get excited about any of those.
So if we're not going to go in the 6,000s, that means we got to find multiple 7,000s guys to make this all fit. Probably in the low 7,000s too. Is there anybody else in this level that we like?
Yeah, I like Max Homa, although it's all over the place. His last 8 tournaments, he has 4 missed cuts, but 4 top 20s. So you're probably going to either get a missed cut or he's going to be in the mix a little bit. He won at Riviera earlier this year, plays well on the West Coast, finished top 20 here. Bounced back last week, which I did like, but it was a lot of putting, which scares me a little bit. But I think Homa is in the mix. I also think our friend, we talked about multiple times, 7,100 Matt Wallace is in play here. Missed the cut last tournament Memorial, but it's really bad putting. He hit the ball really well that week. He's up and down, but I think he's a guy that if he gets has an up week can actually compete and can be a top 15 kind of guy. He's good around the greens. Ball striking can be elite or go away. I do get that, but down at this range, you're looking for someone who actually can get in the mix. I think Wallace fits that bill.
The mercurial Matt Wallace.
He is that.
How about let's go Ryan? What about Ryan Palmer? Finished 2nd in January here. He's at 7,100. Any interest in him? Is that a pretty decent year? Although didn't make the cut at the PGA. Yeah,
you like the track. I put a fair amount of stock in Farmer's Open track record. And it's funny, like we just kind of drift over to picking. I think we all had him, like we're talking about him every show when the tour is in Texas, and then we sort of drift away when we get outside of his home state for some reason. But I think he's a good under the radar pick as well, and probably I would think lightly owned. Just based on the guys around him.
Lost shots on approach 4 last 5 weeks. Lost tee to green 3 last 4. I just don't think he's hitting the ball well enough for me to jump there quite yet.
Christian Bezuidenhout has made every cut on the tour this year. 9 for 9. 7,200. Interest in him?
I think he's too short of a hitter this week, plain and simple. I really like his game, but he's a really short hitter, and I think that's going to be a problem.
Okay.
He's the new Oosthuizen, where his name is pronounced differently by whatever announcer happens to say it in that moment. So yep. I would like to see him in contention on Thursday just to see if we can establish a standard for that last name. But I agree. He's not on my radar as a fantasy pick.
CBS won't show any of his shots. Don't worry. I know that because he was on my team and he was making a charge at the PGA and we never saw him.
NBC this week. NBC, they'll go for it.
CBS will definitely not show him that. Okay, I can guarantee you that. It is NBC this week. You're right about that. Okay, so there's no hope in the 6,000. Anybody at all that like you squint, you're like, okay, fine, I'll use them if I have to make it all fit.
I think. Go ahead, Jeff.
I say Johnny Vegas, streaky, was on the leaderboard on Sunday last weekend, 6,800. But not really. I mean, overall, I sort of thought maybe you can build because, like Scott said, the 9,000s are exciting. So maybe you start there and you just kind of build it in that 9 to 7 range and walk and wait to cash in Sunday night.
So I think if you're going to do it, you have to do it with a purpose. And I think that purpose is you find guys down here who hit the ball a ton. Like you find some bombers down here. Johnny Vegas, so Jeff mentioned, I think is a real live play at 6,800. He's 6th in driving distance in this field over the last 36 rounds. Hit it really well off the tee last week and finished not only top 10 last week, but 2 of the last 3 weeks. Everybody's favorite, Wilco Nienaber, last week, bombing the ball over the course. He finished 14th, hit the ball really well. A guy from the Corn Ferry Tour, Taylor Pendrith, is 6,500. He finished 23rd at the U.S. Open in September in 2020 at Winged Foot. He's number 4 in driving distance in this field. Obviously, it's a limited amount of events, but playing really well on the Corn Ferry Tour. I mean, you're talking about squinting and finding guys. If I'm going to do it, though, I'm going to do it on bombers. I think Wyndham Clark is 6,700, but he loses too many strokes on approach. So if I'm going to do it, it's going to be Vegas, maybe Nienaber, maybe Pendrith, but I'm going to do it with the thought that I'm going to get a bomber who maybe gets a little lucky around the greens and makes the cut.
How about leader in bombing tee markers, Eric Van Ruyen, as suggested by Dusty Wagner, a friend of the podcast on Twitter, suggests that he's at 68, I want to say. Yeah, 67.
Yeah.
Any interest in him?
He's flashed in majors before. No, I think I like Scott's profile of finding the big hitters, people who are hitting the golf ball well, not necessarily the tee box markers well, but he's got a little bit of, he's been in the fire before on major championships.
He's a fiery sort of guy, apparently.
Yes, indeed.
He played really well last week at Palmetto, finished 10th and, hit the ball well, but if you scroll back at all to recent form and you don't rely on just Palmetto, it gets pretty ugly pretty fast. 4 of his last 5 events were pretty gross.
Yeah, that's true. That is true, including missing the cut at the PGA after connecting with the tee marker. But green, tee marker to green. He leads the tour in, but other than that, it's fine. But okay, all right. So we kind of covered that. How about it from a gaming angle, Scott? You like taking a look at that? What are some of the bets that you like on your betting sheet?
It's tough, right? Because I think it's really an elite guy event. I think it's going to be a top 20 guy in the world to win, and those guys are all priced that way. So I think any kind of how you build your betting card is really important, and I'm probably going to go 2 guys under 30 to 1, and then maybe 2 guys in the mid-range and kind of leave it at that. Maybe a couple bucks on some bombers, but I'm betting Rory. He's 21 to 1 right now on DraftKings. My question is going to be whether I take Brooks as my second guy in the range or Morikawa. Brooks is 19 to 1. Morikawa is 25 to 1. I'm going to take one of those 2 and just play that. You can't take more than 2 guys in this range. Otherwise, if you win, you're not going to make money. In the mid-range, guys we've talked about, I love Louis at 40 to 1. I love Casey at 45 to 1. Can have money on those guys. I do like Will Z at 46 to 1, but I just can't take a third guy in that range and make it work out money-wise. If you want a couple of bombers, for a couple of bucks on, I think Matt Wallace 110 to 1, could compete here. I think Max Homa 100 to 1 could compete. And kind of in between there, I think Gary Woodland at 70 to 1 is playable too. But I'm going to go Rory, Louis, Casey, and then either Brooks or Morikawa. I'm going to decide on those. So those are going to be my 4 bets for sure this week.
I am going Koepka at 19 to 1, Morikawa 20 to 1, Justin Rose 60 to 1, and I will throw something down for Kokrak. I see Kokrak 60 to 1. That's a little small. I was hoping he'd be a little bit longer shot, but I still like him. And then I'll throw something on Westwood, 150 to 1.
It'll be an interesting pod next week based on how Justin Rose does this weekend.
Yes, we have it throwing down the gauntlet. And notice the pronunciation. Thank you, Joe Sheehan, for being the guide on that on Twitter. He loves.
Is that correct? Really?
It's the saying is correct. You throw down the gauntlet, but it's been co-opted over the years to gauntlet. But
wow, I did not. I feel like I learned something today, and that's all you can hope for in a day.
I know nothing. I can't give you good betting advice, but I can give you pronunciation advice, idiom advice, if you will. Okay, one and done. I already mentioned I'm going Morikawa. Scott, who are you going with?
I'd love to go Rory, but I used him earlier for a non-win, so I feel shame about that. So I think I'm going to go. I think I'm going to go Brooks Koepka this week. I still have him available, and if I'm going to take a shot on him, it's going to be in a major, and I'm going to go ahead and pull it now.
Yeah, I don't know if I have Koepka or not. He would be tempting, but I'll go ahead and say I'm going to take Justin Rose.
Do it.
And I will
Real
eat
man
crow
does
next
that.
week, or take a
He just-
very smug, smarmy victory lap next week.
He threw the gauntlet down in a big way right there.
Yeah. Looking forward to next week when we'll have Scott, myself, and Third Coast. No, to be named later here, but someone from Sports Illustrated's large stable of podcasters. Congratulations to Morning Read and Sports Illustrated and the big deal there you guys announced this week. That's awesome, Jeff.
Thanks.
Love seeing it.
Yeah, we're excited.
Yeah,
really excited.
More exposure. So it's only a good thing there. Want to thank everybody for listening. Thanks for responding to us. Always tweet at us, comment in the video. We're happy to respond. And good luck on your bets this week. Thanks for listening to Gaming Golf.